Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another chapter of Experiencer Interviews. And today we've got another amazing soul coming to us from the US. We have Linda Maria Smith on board today. For the past 50 years, Linda Maria Smith has been an extraterrestrial experiencer. She is the author of The Kings Are Coming, a multi-generational intergalactic odyssey, a biographical account of her and her family's lifelong encounters. Born in New York City, Linda grew up on Long Island in Uniondale and Freeport. Studying business at Long Island University's CW Post Campus, she went on to work in local public school district and has continued to work in education since 1998. As a third-generation experiencer, Linda's earliest recollection of an extraterrestrial contact took place at the age of 3 when she found herself face to face with two small beings standing in the hallway of her home. Linda's family is no stranger to alien contact or UFO phenomena either. Her maternal grandmother, Florence, had an unexplained scoop mark on her leg since childhood. Her sister, Michelle, had a first-time experience around at the age of 4, and Linda's children have had experiences spanning the last 21 years, making them the fourth generation in her family to have inherited what started with her grandmother and continued with her own mother, Ruth. In 1994, Linda's mother, Ruth, started openly showing an interest in UFOs, logging every sighting and experience. Following Ruth's suggestion, Linda started journaling shortly thereafter. As fate would have it, the combination of these two diary logs would eventually become the foundation of The Kings Are Coming. So, Linda, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a while since I've been on any show, so I'm a little nervous.
So let's get into your story. So everything for you really started off as at a young age. Now, according to your book, you had like fear of the dark. You hated being alone in your bedroom, and sometimes you'd wake up in a panic because it felt as if you had just fallen back into bed.
Yes.
So what actually happened?
So that was, I think, the precursor to my actual meeting one night, because every time I would feel that falling back into my body or bed, I would wake up very startled. I was very young, and then I would walk through the hallway right around the corner to my parents' bedroom and crawl into bed with my mom so that I felt safe. But this one particular night, I heard "go back to bed," and that's when I really focused on what was in front of me, and there was two little beings there, not much bigger than me. Their feet or shoes, I'm not sure what, were glowing like this luminescent bluish color, and I literally just went back to bed. And that was the beginning of a lifetime worth of experiences.
So this happened in 67?
Yes, ish. Yeah.
Now, do you recall seeing anything more than the feet?
No, not at that time. It wasn't until I was a little bit older where my sister and I moved upstairs to the second story bedroom, where things would happen with the two of us, my sister and I. And she is the one who coined that phrase, "the kings are coming," because that's what she would call them. And that's where the title of my book came from, is because of what she named them. We had several nights of visitations from them. I will say that at first, as a child, because you don't understand what's going on, you are scared. And it always happened in the dark for us. And it always happened through the bedroom that was directly across from us upstairs. And that room was very dark. It was never used unless my grandparents came to visit. So that room, the doorway, in essence, turned into like a portal where they would come through to us. I just got goosebumps saying that. And take us, but I don't have any, other than one memory, I don't have any other memories of what they did to us, but I do remember always finding myself in a classroom setting. but not a traditional classroom where you sit at desks and you listen to the teacher. It was a round white room with a bunch of different species of children there, and we were all learning telepathically.
Do you remember how they appeared? Did you actually see them coming, let's say through the, I suspect they came through a portal of sorts, maybe the closet?
No, it was the actual doorway of the bedroom. So my bedroom door faced that bedroom door across the hall. So they would come through that dark area. But I'm 61 now, so trying to get specifics is a little difficult. But they would come towards us, and it was almost like my sister knew before they actually came through that they were coming, because she would say the kings are coming almost every single time.
Do you recall your sister's first recollection or first experience?
She's 4 years younger than me, so it was around the same. When we moved upstairs, so she was, I think, 4, so I was about 8. So around 4 years old is her first memory that she's told me as an adult. She does not to this day still like to talk about it. She refuses to acknowledge it. She always thinks of it as a negative experience because that fear is still there. She never moved forward to experience or open herself up to learn about it. I, on the other hand, have had nothing but positive memories of it, and it has followed me my whole life. And I think, knowing now what I know, it was because I was supposed to have all these experiences because I'm one of the first generation starseeds to come back down here. So everything is positive for me. Her first recollection was about 4. She remembers this very bright light coming from the bathroom window. And that bathroom separated the 2 rooms. And that bathroom window faced the opposite way from the 2 windows. So it kind of was like a T there. The bright light, I guess, made her go towards that light. And she said the next thing she remembers is she's sitting on the stairwell steps facing downstairs, trying to scream for mom, but nothing came out of her mouth, just her opening her mouth. And from there on, the fear factor just stayed for her.
In your book, you talk one of your sister's experiences. She's like, I think she wakes up at night while in her bed, and she sees like a shadowy figure.
The man, yeah.
Who's the man?
I don't know. I just got goosebumps again. So my father's parents used to come over on the weekends a lot because they lived in the city in Queens, New York, and we lived on the island. So on the weekends, we would have visitations with them. And there were many nights where she would sleep with my grandparents in that bedroom across from us where they came from, the Kings. And that's one night where she woke up and there was that shadow figure behind the backboard of the bed. And that's where she saw the man. But like I said, she refuses to acknowledge that these things are otherworldly. She doesn't like to talk about it. So we've never discussed who she thinks the man is.
Okay. But nothing bad came out of it.
Not to my recollection, no.
Okay. Now, getting back to the beings here, well, yeah, okay, you didn't really see, you only saw their feet, so you don't know if they were wearing anything at the time.
No, not in that instance, but all the other times that these beings have come to me, there's one particular being that I call the elder in my book, and they do have like a space suit of sorts, but it's very tight fitting, almost like a bodysuit type with long sleeves. I don't know, I can't recall what they're wearing on their feet, but it's all one piece. And there is an insignia on their left chest there that at first I thought was some kind of triangle, only to find out about 10 years ago that it is a Merkaba. So to me, that's one of their ways of traveling through where they have to go because of that Merkaba on there. The elders are the only ones that have been consistent as far as my companion, but there is one other being that has always been there, but I didn't know it until my husband came in the picture and we put the two stories together.
Now, you talked briefly about the being in a school with other ET children. Do you recall how you were brought there, or did you like black out, and you woke up within that?
Yeah, I was just there. Like I would wake up there. I would wake up in the hallway and then be escorted into the classroom. And then it was, I would say, probably from the age of 9-ish, it was my duty to go through the hallway to bring the children that were being brought on board to the classroom, as they're more of a comfort that they saw another human taking them to the classroom. That was my duty for a long time until I was 11.
You became a nanny of sorts, really.
Yes, exactly.
Now, one thing that really got to me was 'cause I believe you're part of their hybrid program as well, because
Yes.
you were sort of like hypersexualized during your teen years.
Yes.
And can you get into that?
Ah. So I have always had a very heightened awareness and interest sexually as a very young age. And now I didn't understand it back then, but now I understand why. I think it was made that way so that I could possibly have, so they could have more access to whatever eggs that they needed, prior to me being old enough to visibly carry a child here on earth and have it accepted that way. Oh, she's pregnant. Okay. But yeah, I've always had this very hyper awareness of my body, feelings, etc. And it wasn't until how old was I? I think it was 20, 22, the very first time I got pregnant, that I lost it and had a supposed miscarriage. Extremely heavy bleeding. The normal exams and everything happened after that, but that was my first experience of losing a child. And then when I got pregnant with my daughter, who's now going to be 30, I did have bleeding during that pregnancy, and the doctor told me that I lost her twin. And a few months after she was born, I had an experience with my mother. We were brought onto a ship, and we were introduced to the twin that they had taken from me. And they gave me a very important message that night, telling me that they separated them for a reason, and that I would know eventually what that reason was, because it was for their safety. So I don't know how many other children I have up there, but that particular one seems to be a very important key factor in whatever is coming in this awakening in the near future. Yeah.
Wow. Did they ever named her?
If so, I have not been given a name that I can remember, but the one being that was holding her, through the information of somebody else that I told this story to, who is in very intense contact with the Mantids that live in the Sandia Mountains in New Mexico, they told him that I wasn't supposed to remember that being. And her name is Kananda. I actually have a picture of her somewhere, but Richard's not here to find it. So she is the only being that I remember having an actual name given to me, but she was the one holding the twin when the three beings came through the doorway to me to show me the twin. And it was very odd because the way the twin looked at me, it was though she remembered who I was, even though she had been taken out of me well before she was ready to, based on my daughter's was 40 weeks gestation when she was born. But they were the same age, but yet she looked a little bit older, more mature, but definitely more mature mentally. She was the more hybrid looking one than my daughter.
Growing up, did you have these like imaginary friends that
No,
would
I
have
never
now?
did. My daughter did, though.
Your daughter, okay.
My daughter, from the time she could speak, which was very young, she was the youngest. The two boys that I had before her, so there's 6 and 9 years difference between her and her brothers. So they would go to school. She was always home alone. So in essence, it was like she was the only child at that time. She would always be, my mother and I would always hear her talking jibber jabber, whatever, and then full blown conversations as she got older. But up until the age of 6, she always had these three people that she was talking to. And then finally, one day I asked her, "Who are you talking to?" Very calmly, I said it. I didn't make a big deal. I didn't want to make her feel embarrassed or whatever. And she just looked at me very matter of fact and said, "Cadus, Betis, and Radis. One is a teacher, one was their math teacher, one was her friend or whatever." It just blew my mind. And my mother just looked at me like, did she just say what I think she said? It was as if she was talking about Tommy, Sally, and Joe that were classmates of hers. It was not a big deal for her. And I didn't want to make it seem like, oh my God, something's wrong. I didn't want her to feel that way. So over the years, we just continued to try to coax things out of her, and we never made it a big deal. It wasn't until she's about 9 or 10 that the acknowledgement of them, it finally went away. And then, I mean, she still talks about it now, but it's nothing like she used to. She still remembers them, but she hasn't had any contact that I know of yet.
Um, Getting back to the school,
Hmm.
now, do you remember what you've been taught? Because a lot of experiences tend to be shown how to fly these sort of like 3D objects with their mind. So I was wondering if you went through, something similar.
That was one of the lessons, was telekinesis. That is not my power. My power is healing with the hands, telepathic communication. I mean, if I'm very close to somebody, not just physically, but emotionally very close to somebody, I will be able to at times read their thoughts or communicate with them, even though they don't realize they're talking telepathically. I'm able to have that exchange. Um, I have been given the gift of clairaudience, clairsentience, all of that. I am a dark empath, which means I have suffered a lot of things myself, and therefore my empathy towards other people who have suffered is there, and that helps with their healing. I have done healings with people with my hands and crystals. So, yes, they have taught me all of that. And I have been told by, I can't even tell you how many psychics, that that is what my purpose is on earth here, is to be a healer, whether it's a physical healing or an emotional healing. And now that I'm in my crone stage, I embrace it fully.
I think they gave you the chance to pilot a craft of sorts.
Yes, that was amazing. I still see it. I can still feel that feeling that that euphoria that I had that night. There was a being standing behind me, and the screen image of that person was of an Asian man. The eyes. That's the only reason why I think that they chose that ethnicity, was because of the eyes. Um, short in stature. I'm not very tall. I'm only 5 feet, and he was not very much taller than me. And I say he because that was the energy. I don't know if they actually have genders, but I just felt a masculine energy there. But I even drew the dashboard in my book, and it was all clear, like acrylic clear, but they had some little windows and little symbols and stuff. And they told me all I had to do was think of the direction that I needed to go in and put my hand over this one specific spot on the dashboard, and we could move. And it was amazing. It was smooth. We were up above the earth. I could see earth through the window, and it was the most amazing experience I've ever had in my life. It's fun.
Yeah, I suspect, yeah. Are you aware if that ship was actually alive?
Sentient, yes, definitely.
Did you see how it looked like from the outside?
No, I have no idea what it looked like from the outside. It almost felt like, I can't say for sure, but the feeling of it was like it was a little pod almost. Like it wasn't a full ship. It was something more smaller that they felt I could control better than an actual ship. More like a pod.
Coming back to your hybrid child, I think in your book you talk about the term children of the in-between. Is that it? Yeah. Was it regarding her?
I don't remember
Or
that.
I think they're hybrids, hybrid terms.
Yes.
Yeah.
The children of the in-between, yes. Which means to me, right now, all the awareness that we have surrounding the LGBTQ community and the autism community or the neurodivergent community, they're all part of that. And the awareness of those two groups, because I do believe that those two groups are part of the hybrid children, gut feeling, by giving everybody more exposure and awareness to those two groups will then allow people to be more open to the children of the in-between, all the hybrids that are finally going to start popping out of everywhere. They're going to be showing up, and we have to be ready for that.
Did you ever find out who the hybrid's child's father was?
Well, she's yes, which is my husband, Richard. And we didn't know that at the time because I wasn't married to him at the time. I was pregnant with another man. We have the 2 boys and my daughter. But there were too many stories between his stories and mine that just made sense. She's not just his, she is a hybrid of their whatever genetics and his and mine. And she had red hair, which is what my husband's had. So Richard has. So yeah, it was a big thing for my mom to realize that. She was talking to Richard's mother one day on the phone, and she said, I wonder where that red hair came from. It wasn't said, but it was understood between them that that's what was going on. Yeah. For the longest time, I used to ask my mother, there's this red-haired boy that just keeps sticking in my head. And she's like, I don't know. I don't know of anybody that we know that you would have remembered as a child. And then Richard came into my life in 1995. And I saw a picture of him when he was little. And that was the little red-haired boy. And then everything just came flooding to the surface for me. And we started comparing notes. And he was the one that was the little red-haired boy. He's younger than me. So he was 4 when I first met him aboard the ships. I was about 11. And they would, since I had to meet the children that were coming on board, this one particular child, they told me, he is the one you are to take care of and watch for at all costs. You watch him from now on. I will tell you, he was a royal pain in the tuchus. He always had to touch things. He was not an easy child to watch, but yeah, he has a funny story. He tells it so much better than I do, but he and I shared a mentor that you'll probably bring up in a few, but he was one of the children that I was taking care of, but then he was assigned to me only up until I was 12.
Okay. And so I guess your meeting with Richard was planned way before.
Oh God, yes. It was definitely planned.
Yeah.
I do believe that they had paired us from that moment. And then when the timing was right to actually physically meet here on Earth was not until 1995. Because I was pregnant with my daughter at the time. And he had no idea at that time, neither did I, that that was his child that I was carrying.
So the partner that you had physical intimacy on board the craft was Richard.
I don't know if we had physical intimacy on the ship for that or if I was inseminated. But yes, they did have us do that deed on the ship while we were supervised and in a semi-drugged stupor, I guess, if you want to call it. There's foggy, faded memories of it, but never a full, real memory.
Now let me see. So you talked about your mom briefly. At what age did you actually open up to her?
It was one of the evenings in I think it was the end of 94 when we started seeing books around the house. Zachariah Sitchin. I mean, all these books that were just showing up, and she was in a book club at first, she told us. My mom was a very quiet person. She never really did anything, went anywhere, had friends until she started this book club. And now books are everywhere of things that we never saw her interested in. So my sister and I was sitting at the dining room table one night and I started a conversation about the books. And that's when I found out it was actually a UFO group that she had joined. All of a sudden she was interested, and she was probably in her maybe late 40s, early 50s. Maybe 50s. Yeah, 50s. And I don't know how the conversation turned to me and my sister, but my mother looked at us and said something like, "What? Tell me." And I looked at my sister and she looked at me and I said, "Well, we got to tell her now." And she goes, "Tell me what?" And that's when we both admitted to having experiences since we were very young. And she said, "Why didn't you ever tell me?" And my sister and I both said, "Because we thought we were going to get in trouble." And then from almost literally from that moment on, the experiences just were nonstop, not just between me and my mother, but my dad, my ex-husband, all of my kids, my sister, and customers of mine that were coming to the house because I used to do their nails back then. It was just nonstop. There was so much going on Long Island in the 90s. It was ridiculous. So, yeah, 1994 was when she first just blasted us with it.
So is that when she said that you should try to write everything down that's happening to you, to make a diary of sorts?
Not right then. It was a few months, maybe shy of a year, that she was religiously writing things down. I have her original notes still. And it was just nonstop, almost minute by minute that she would write things down. And it wasn't until maybe just shy of a year that she said, you really need to keep notes too. And that's when after she passed away, I put the two together, and there was a lot of things that meshed with her experiences and mine on the same nights or the day after, or it was just incredible.
So let's talk about the beings that you saw so far. So earlier on, the first ones were what you call the kings. And your
Yeah.
book, you say that they're from Zeta Reticuli, I believe.
I believe there's eight of reticuli. Yeah. I don't like to use the word gray because that to me is just a general word that people have overused. These beings are not gray in color or anything. These have almost like a tan Native American skin tone to them. They're short, and I think because they are short that people just group them into the gray category. But I have seen very human looking tall people, very white, pale skin. I guess people call them Nordics. I don't know. But there's been so many different beings that it's so hard to explain. It's almost like watching an episode of Star Trek where they're all in the room together having a drink at the bar. It's like that.
So what type of the race, the Watchers, what race are they from?
That I don't know. I don't know what race they are. I don't know what planets they're from. They've never told me, and if they have told me, there is no recollection of that in my head. I have seen multiple, but I seem to always meet them in groups. Like I said, like they're on a ship together, almost as if it's like a stop for them, like a truck stop, but up there where they all come together in this one place, and that's always where I am.
Because in your book, well, you do talk about the Merkaba symbol, but
Yes,
they were also wearing white shimmering robes.
the elder,
The
yes.
elder, yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes,
And you also talk about the crone.
yes, the crone. She is a bipedal mantid. She's the one who assigned me to Richard when I was very young. I am her protege. And when I say I'm her protege, I belong to a galactic group called the Sisterhood, and my name off Earth is Sister Aries, and that is my healing name. That is my otherworldly name. That's what I go by. She goes by the Crone. I call her Prima Mati because she is my prime contact. She still has contact with us minimally now because, like I said, I'm in my crone stage. So now I have become the mentor. I have become the crone, and she has stepped back. But my daughter is part of the sisterhood, but she's not aware of it yet, if that makes sense, here on Earth. She knows up there, but here on Earth, she's still just a human being doing regular life. Um, the crone is probably 15 feet tall and wears a very brown, uh, worn, what's it called? Suede-ish type material. Um, multiple telepathic communications between her, me, and Richard. We still have experiences to this day, but they're more like gatherings now where either Richard or I are in more control of the group gathering. But yeah, she's been a part of my life and Richard's life our whole lives.
I believe that she's like head of the council or is.
Yes. Yeah, she was the one who brought me to my initiation at the age of 11. She escorted me into the room for my initiation. And the number 11 has always been very significant for my life and my mother's life. It just surrounded us everywhere in everything we did.
Could you talk about the sisterhood initiation, how things happened, the step by step?
So the way that I recall the day starting or the event starting was bringing Richard aboard the ship. He was 4. The crone took us down this hallway. The hallways are always very dimly lit with almost like night lights, but you can't see them on the baseboards of the hallway floors. So everything is lit from the floor up. So we walked down a hallway. There was a door that we passed, which she stopped, and she told Richard to stay there. And she brought me into this room that was slightly open, and there was like this blue glow coming out of it. And when I walked in and down almost like a ramp, like you're walking into a theater, there's the aisle and then there's seats all around. It was a round room with stepped seating, like a stadium. And it was just filled with beings sitting there waiting for me. And in the center was a round pedestal, like a pedestal type raised floor, but it was illuminated from blue above it and just fanned out blue glow everywhere. And there was a being that looked like it was being, I don't know the word, like a hologram, just standing in the middle of that blue beam, waiting for me to do the initiation. I have no idea. I have no memory of who it is, who it was, their name, what type of race they were. I just know that once I stood in that beam, my human memory is wiped out about that. But I know that I still have capabilities up there that are totally inhuman capabilities down here. It's just amazing.
Now let me see. Do you recall ever seeing like medical devices, or do you remember if anything medically was ever done to you?
Oh yeah, I have in my book. I have pictures of markings of all over me. I did have a pinhole mark in my belly button one night. My sister had the same pinhole mark in her tongue. I have a scratch. I had a scratch that went across the nape of my neck in the back, and there's a picture of it in here. And on the end of both scratches, there's a triangular mark, and the points of each part of the triangle have pinholes in it, like a device was placed there. What it is, I have no idea. I don't know if you can see that. But where the circles are is where the triangles were. It's bizarre. I've had scratches on my back, my head. I was put into some type of dental looking chair, but very futuristic, that it was like sitting on a ball, and it could rotate, this chair. And a copper device was put on my head like a headband, but it had these little copper things that went on my temples. And the being, another Zeta Reticuli, was working on what I called an MRI machine. So what they were doing, I have no idea.
Impressive. You talked about, okay, the skin marks. I believe your grandmother also had
Yes.
a body mark.
My mom told me that she had a scoop mark on her shin. And my mother was the type of person that did extensive research. My mom didn't read something and just take it for face value. She would look everywhere to see and compare. And she had the type of memory that she could say, oh, in Zachariah Sitchin's book on page whatever, this was said. And so-and-so's book on page 14, they said this. She did so much research that she was like, I know now that my mom, my grandmother, had an experience as a child, and that's what caused that scoop mark, because there were several books that my mom read that the person who had a scoop mark that they couldn't explain said that they have a memory of tripping over barbed wire. And that's the exact thing that my grandmother said too. She doesn't remember how she got it, but she does remember tripping over barbed wire. My grandmother never spoke of any experiences, but that scoop mark was my mom's confirmation.
Do you know if your mom also had any scoop marks?
That I don't know. My mom never told me anything while she was alive of any potential recollection of experiences when she was younger, but that could have been wiped from her memory as well. I will tell you that after my parents passed away, something very amazing and shocking happened where my sister was feeling nostalgic one night and was watching the 8mm video of their wedding. And she sent me screenshots and a video of it just so that I could remember it too, because she has the movie, I don't. And it wasn't until I stopped for a second and took a really good look at the screenshots that she sent me that I realized that in that video, there's a UFO in the sky visible in their wedding video. And a friend of mine took that video and did a screen by screen, very slowly looked at it, and you could see it rotating in the 8mm film because it has a different look in each still shot. So my parents were watched as well back then in the 60s.
Now, you said earlier on that your mom would love doing these sort of nighttime, like C5s.
Oh yeah, she did it all by herself. It wasn't there was not even a C5 topic back then in the 90s. Yeah, she would sit there. She always felt compelled to go sit and watch. She would wake up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to go sit up at the kitchen table. It was always something that she felt she needed to do. She would sit there with her notebook and just wait for them to show up. And there was always a fleet that would show up. And she named one of them Big Mama.
Did she ever share seeing an actual being in the house?
I don't remember her saying that she remembered seeing a being. But that neighborhood that we lived in was a hotbed of activity.
Uh, uh, could you talk about the experience that you had regarding being in a tank with blue liquid?
Yeah. So that was actually my youngest son's experience. I do not recall it at all. He came to me one day and said that he had an experience. Now, mind you, he was only 6 at the time. And it just, my mom, I never made a big deal out of their experiences. I wanted them to be able to come to me comfortably and talk about it without having any fear. So he came to me. I asked him to draw it, which he did draw it, and I have it in my book. There were 3 tanks in the room: his father, myself, my ex husband, and his brother, who was 9 at the time. We were all just frozen in these tanks, not frozen, but just in a hibernation in these tanks. And my youngest son, Kenny's experience, he was on a table near those tanks. There was a being behind him and a being on like a TV screen, teleprompter, whatever you want to call it. He called him, the one in the TV screen, the captain. And then the being next to him was getting direction from the captain telepathically. And then the being next to my son told him telepathically that he would let my older son, his brother, out of the tank to stand next to him so that he felt more comfortable. My older son does not have any recollection of it, and neither does my ex-husband. But we were all taken together.
Did you ever find out the purpose of the blue liquid?
It was just to keep us suspended and in a like an anesthesia state where we was asleep. And I don't know if it helps our bodies being in that liquid for travel, but I never remember traveling. I just remember waking up being there.
I've interviewed a few in the past, and they were also inside these tanks with these, this weird type of liquid. And they told me that it was to help humans travel through space. So yeah.
Interesting. That's confirmation for me. It I don't remember ever getting to my destinations ever in any experience.
Um, Now I know Richard did a few like these weird like psych tests back in school, I think perhaps.
I did
Okay, you did.
because
Okay.
I'm older. I was in the 60s and 70s in elementary school. Why? I don't remember, but they would always call me out of school. And I was a very obedient child. And I never questioned authority back then. If I was told to do something, I did it. And they would bring me into this room. It was just me and this one other person. And they would show me these weird cards, but they would only show me the back of the card. And I had to guess what was on the other side. Now, as an adult, I find it very odd. Like, why were they doing that in an elementary school? So I question now, were they really school authorities doing this, or was there some other involvement somewhere? I don't know. But yeah, I had to do the ink blot thing, the cards, the guessing was very bizarre.
Do you know the name of the project? If because I know there's like the GATE program where they try to find these special kids with
They were
abilities.
probably testing my abilities back then, but I mean, at the time I didn't know anything. But now, ever since I've been, talking about it publicly, I start to wonder, well, how deep does this involvement go with alien contact and the government and trying to find these psychic kids? I have no idea what the project name could be.
Have you ever gone through hypnosis, regression?
Yep, 3 times. Two by one person who used to work with Bud Hopkins, and one by a new friend that I met through this Bud Hopkins lady. Her name is Gloria Hawker. She was the first one that ever did. So you know Gloria? Okay. Yeah, she's a very good friend of mine. I have adopted her as my surrogate mom since mine's gone. Um, but she was the very first one when I moved to New Mexico to even, oh, no, stop, rewind. She is not the first one. My very first hypnosis was back in the 90s with another author. His name was Brian Levins, and he was very popular in the UFO circle on Long Island. And he recommended Dr. Mundy. So she did my first regression. For me, that was it wasn't very successful. It wasn't until I moved to New Mexico when I met Gloria, because Richard and I were on the executive committee for the New Mexico UFO Paranormal Forum, that we met Gloria, because she was a member of that group for at least 10 years before us. She learned how to do the hypnotherapy from Bud Hopkins. She was his assistant. She helped a lot. And she asked me one time if she could do a regression on me because she loved mine and Richard's story. And I said, sure. And then she did it again the second time. And then the third person was somebody named Melanie, who still does hypnosis and stuff. But she also has used me for remote viewing to help police investigations. So yes, I have been regressed 3 times for my experiences and then remote viewing.
Are you aware if all these events happening on board craft, if these were like physical things happening to you, or were you like out of body over there?
That's a good question. I question that myself sometimes, if they just take part of me and leave the physical body. Because some of the things, when I return back here, my body is fine, but I am mentally exhausted. Like I didn't sleep at all. So I don't know. I can't answer that. I would say yes, just based on my experiences, that some are physical and some are not.
Let's talk about your book. How was it getting this book finally out? Was it healing? Was it something that you were afraid of?
I was terrified. When I grew up in the 60s and 70s on Long Island, it was not a very easy thing to be openly talking about alien experiences or whatever. I was made fun of, and I eventually just shut down and never spoke about it again. It was horrible. Richard was in New Mexico since 2008, so he had a whole world, a different world. It's very openly welcomed in New Mexico. And when I moved there in 2017, I got into a whole new world and I was finally accepted, believed, and they wanted more information. So I fought him tooth and nail for about a year before I finally agreed to write this book, because I told him multiple times, I said, to me, this is like airing dirty laundry. I don't want to be made fun of again. That trauma is still there. I don't want to do it. But now that I've done it, I've had so many women come up to me and say, thank you for telling me your story, because now I don't feel like I'm crazy. Because they've had experiences, but were so afraid that they were either hallucinating or they were afraid they were going to get in trouble or not believed or whatever. It helped them, and that made me feel good. So, yes, it was cathartic in the end. But in the beginning, no, it was not.
When the book was published, was your mom still with us at the time?
No, my mom passed away in 2005.
Oh, that's so
But
sad.
I do have a feeling that she was helping Richard push me because she knew it needed to be out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, with your coming out, did you have any backlash with the government or like from the military?
Not physically in person, but I did have what I loosely use the word dream at. I did have a dream, and I told Richard about it, that there were two men, and they kind of fit the description of men in black with sunglasses and a black suit, knocked at our door one night and told me that I needed to come with them immediately. No questions asked. We need to go now. You're being called. And I'm like, what? What are you doing? And apparently, it was some kind of meeting with alien beings, and they were asking for Sister Aries, not Linda. And they took us, but I have no recollection past them taking us out my front door.
That's
And Gloria has had several memories of us being taken in a dark Jeep at night with Richard, me, and Gloria to a place that had a large window that faced a beach. And she has no idea why the three of us were taken together. Yeah. So that's the only memory I have of any potential government intervention there, or interference, I should say.
uh, when I was with my former fiance. I woke up during the night and I saw a black disc floating in my bedroom doorway, and
Mm-hmm.
to later on having five shadow beings in the bedroom. When I woke up, I was super drugged up.
Yeah.
So did you ever wake up with that feeling?
Oh, yeah. I wake up feeling like I had a wild night the night before. I wake up many times lately feeling like I had been put under anesthesia. And I feel like that whole groggy feeling when you come out of surgery. Yeah, that's how I know when I wake up like that, I've had a very intense night doing something out there. But yeah, it happens a lot.
So we've been at this for almost an hour. Like, do you have a closing statement or a final story that you might want to get out?
Closing statement would be to remember to look up. Remember who you really are, because what you think is not really the case. We all have a mission here on Earth, especially the star seeds. We're here to wake you guys up. There is something coming, and it's going to be amazing, large, beautiful thing that's coming. And please don't lose hope. We're here for a reason. This is not our home planet. All of us.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Linda. It's been fun.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
You got a
Thank you.
beautiful story, and I'm really glad you came on.
Thank you so much.
And to those watching, I hope you enjoyed today's interview. I'm your host, Mr. Great. More interviews coming up, and I will see you guys next time. So,
Thank you.
there, everyone. Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Great, and thanks for watching today's episode. If you are an abductee, contactee, or experiencer, and you believe that your story could help others, please feel free to contact me through my YouTube channel email. When it comes to experiencers, the ET phenomena, and the future, remember, truth will out.